you kind of would expect it to be more about religion than it ends up being, right? Based on its premise and how it's being presented and all of that, right? But what it actually is kind of a very mundane, very suburban type of apocalypse, right? Like there are all these incredible things happening. There's blood raining from the sky. There's meteors constantly just destroying stuff, and you get used to it. It's like a bad commute, right? It's like the annoying guy next to you on the train or whatever. It's all very mundane, right? And nobody's excited about anything, and people are kind of sitting in front of the TV, and and then Orlando gets nuked, and they're a bit sad about it, but ultimately it doesn't impact them, right? And then Satan is introduced, and he's just a bad boss, and he's just middle management.
I'm trying to get like the point that you're trying to make. Was it that this is just more like suburban living, like day in the life of like, someone in suburban whilst the apocalypse is kind of going on?
Yeah, basically. So instead of being like an attack on religion, it's using the rapture as a metaphor for just suburban life. And you go to your office job, and it's annoying, and your boss is a jerk, and he makes your life harder for no reason, and your commute is annoying. You know what I mean? It's all nuisance, right? Like if that's your life, right? Like all the bad things that happen in your life, they on a day-to-day level are just nuisances, and they just kind of add up. And that's kind of what the apocalypse is like in this movie.
I don't know whether they were trying to be too smart with this movie, or whether they were actually, kind of being smart and trying to portray that intentionally. But for me, it just kind of seemed like they were just doing. I don't know. Maybe it was intentional to sort of portray that lifestyle.
I do think it's intentional, and I think that that's the joke. The joke is that you have these monumental cosmic events, and they're just a bad job at some company. That's what that's like.
I think the dick jokes and the sexual jokes kind of take away from that a little bit, but then you can kind of like just tie that to sexual harassment from a boss that you work for that's kind of just like trying to manipulate you essentially. So it actually does kind of tie into the narrative that you're mentioning there.
And who you can't say no to. Like, even if you're not the target of the harassment, even just having to sit through it can be really annoying, but you can't say anything because you really need to keep that job, right? Because losing it is a huge hassle. That's kind of what it reminded me, like, as people were kind of just, it's not just that, right? But just everything the Beast says is just crass and crude and obnoxious, and he treats everybody poorly, and nobody can, like, he does not actually threaten anybody, really. Like, everybody just needs to be in his good graces because they need this job, because the world is in such a bad place that people can't just go get another job, right? But because they've tried, and it's also bleak that they kind of have to play nice with this jerk, right? Like, I think anybody who's had like a bad boss, like in a corporate environment, knows what that's like, where you can kind of sit through it, but you'd rather not. But walking away is just too difficult, and it's too much of a disruption to your life. So you just sit through it and you wait until it's over. All of this stuff with the Beast, that's kind of how I interpreted that. Like, that's what they were channeling when they wrote those scenes.